As I was thinking about this particular year and the ESP conference, and I had anticipated a very large audience like this, I had to reflect, and I have to tell you one personal story. Are there any custodians in the house? Raise your hand. I have to tell you one story about a custodian that I knew quite well. His name was Otto Heinze. And now I know this is going to be hard for you to believe, but in my younger years as a student, I didn't always behave the way I ought to. And so I was in about 7th grade, and apparently I had been screwing around a little too much. And to punish me, instead of going to detention, they had me work with Otto, who was the head custodian at the high school. And I came from a very small town, so the junior high and the high school were all in one building. And this went on for quite a while, and I spent a lot of time with Otto. Then they figured out that this wasn't punishment, that I was having a great time. So they said, we're no longer doing that anymore. You don't get to work with him, and they made me do other things that weren't nearly as fun. But to all of you custodians, I hope you're as good a disciplinarian as Otto was for all the kids who need that special guidance. But in all seriousness, what I reflected back is I attended my first representative assembly for NEA in 1980, 34 years ago. And on the floor of that particular RA was the constitutional amendment to give full voting rights to education support professionals. Now, the year before, in 1979, although I wasn't there, they had passed all the bylaws, but this was the year for the constitutional amendment. And the group that led the charge to approve this constitutional amendment were those from NJEA. They covered the microphones, and their speeches were passionate and powerful, and I knew that was exactly what needed to be done, and it passed. That RA was 77% vote. So I went home after that 1980 RA, and the first thing we did in my local is we formed the Paradise Valley Support Employees Association, which was the 4 of us, basically, secretary from an elementary school, middle school, and a fellow math teacher and I. The 4 of us, we went to the bus barn, we met with custodians at night, and we formed one of the first ESP locals in Arizona. My first year as president of AEA is when we passed full voting rights for ESP in Arizona. And then later in my career in association life, when I was secretary-treasurer, I served with the first ESP ever on the NEA Executive Committee, Iona Holloway. And then while I was secretary-treasurer is when we added ESP quality to what we then called strategic priorities. And I was thinking about that journey of all those things that have happened, and whether in our minds we ever anticipated a conference, an evening, celebrating the NEA ESP of the Year in an audience of close to 1,000 people. I don't think we ever thought that. And to think now that we have approximately 500,000 members across this country. And it brought back to me when I remember so well when I was state president, I brought all the local presidents together in December, and I said, I want this bylaw passed at this delegate assembly because, and I went through all the reasons, but I said the most important reason is for all the things we say we want to accomplish, you can't do that if you don't bring us all together. If you don't bring in all of the adults who work in that school, all of the union members, you can't have what you want. And I thought, what a huge thing has happened during my time at NEA. But you know, it's not done. We have so much yet to do. Becky this afternoon talked about the fight at the federal level for the minimum wage. Now, I honor and respect that they're fighting hard, some of our friends, for a $10.10 minimum wage. But you know, I think that is the wrong approach. I mean, after all, this is 2014. What's wrong with $20.14 as a minimum wage in this country? I don't think these people understand what it is or what it takes to raise a family on $10.10 an hour. That's absurd. It should be so abhorrent that we say we will not tolerate this anymore in the richest, most powerful nation in the world. It's just wrong. And when Edith Kimball stood and came into that hearing in Congress in front of Senator Murray, you have no idea the power of that voice. I can tell you that being introduced as president of the largest labor union in America, although I honor and respect that position, it is not nearly as powerful as when she sat there and spoke from the heart and told them what it was like in her life, in her family, with her kids. So we have so far to go. Do you realize that 27% of all education support professionals in America make less than $10.10 an hour? The idea that we can't change that is we have to. It's just time to do that. And one of the things I often talk about our professions. And the reason I do that, the reason I feel so strongly about it is if we don't honor our professions, we won't change how people value them. Let me ask you a simple question. Do any of you, regardless of what your job responsibility is, do you believe they can hire just anybody to do your job? Absolutely not. Then why don't we stand up and speak out and talk about our professions, about what it takes, about who we are, what it means to be a professional? Now, some think when I talk about leading the professions, I'm talking only about teaching. No, you misunderstand. I'm talking about every single person in this room, that you deep down inside know and feel about what it means to be a professional, to have the skills and the knowledge necessary to do your job. But see, it's not enough to be a professional. You have to be the owner and the leader of your profession. You have to make sure that others know the importance of the knowledge and skills that you have in order to do what you do. I was Googling things about professionals. I was trying to find a new way of saying what I feel so strongly down inside. And it was talking about true professionals, about what they do. And they captured, for me, some of the things that I've been talking about and feeling for so long. See, because in your profession, you own that, which means you define the skills and knowledge necessary. And that when it comes to building your professional practice, you are the ones who define not only what that is, but you're the ones who teach others how to do that. I'm a firm believer in the whole trade union movement. The idea of an apprentice, a journeyman, and a master. Whether you're talking about a carpenter, electrician, a plumber, or a teacher, I honor and respect those, quote, labels. An apprentice is someone who is learning a profession. It's not someone who's going to do this for a couple years and leave, because there's too much to know. And to be a journeyman who aspires to be a master, to teach others the beauty and the skill of what you do, that's what we all need to aspire to. So true professionals make their expertise their specialty. You ought to know more about what you do than any other person anywhere. And you ought to build the standards that you believe are necessary for someone to succeed in what you do. And see, one of the things I love about education support professionals is not just the profession you have, but where you do it. You know, driving a school bus is a lot different than driving a Greyhound bus. Being a secretary in an elementary school is a whole lot different than being a secretary in a business office. It's totally different. So I like that we become the experts in our own specialty. Another definition they talked about a true professional is you do more than what is expected. You do that every single day. I was moved, as Becky talked about, ESPs around the country who did far more than was expected. whether it's having reading days in a bus, whether it's a bus driver who gave his life, Chuck Poland, whether the recent one in Salt Lake City, they call her the lunch lady. A young girl was eating an orange and her friend said something funny and she laughed just as she was swallowing and choked. And she immediately ran over to what she affectionately referred to as the lunch lady, who without a second's thought did the Heimlich maneuver and saved her life. Every single day, you do more than is expected. That is what it means to be a true professional. And you are that. True professionals do what they say and say what they do. What that means to me is that, of course, we do what we say. But when I think about what it means to say what I do, it means when you're standing in the grocery store line or at church or the synagogue, you talk about the importance of what you do. Don't tell them the horror stories. We do that at the bar together. But make them understand the width and the breadth and the depth of the skills and knowledge and professional things that you do as part of your job. Make them know and appreciate that they can't privatize to somebody else and just have them come in and do what you do. They can't. It's impossible. You know, they say true professionals understand that in the world of business, customer satisfaction is most important. See, in our world, it's about students. And in every poll I've ever seen, when we survey our ESP members, and we ask them, why do you do what you do? Why do you work in public schools? Over 90% give the same answer: to make a difference in the lives of students. True professionals understand the purpose of our work. You know, Bob Chase many years ago said, schools don't exist so adults have jobs and salaries. They exist for kids. And you live that every single day. You are absolutely what I believe is a true professional. But one of the most important things that I hope you get out of this conference, this opportunity to learn and to grow, goes back to something that happened to me when I was in college. You know, most of you know I was a high school math teacher for 23 years, and I don't know where this saying ever started. I just know I heard it a lot when people would say, so what's your major? Well, I'm planning to be a teacher. And they had this saying, they said, those who can do, those who can't teach. And I can tell you that I got a visceral reaction from that. It angered me immensely. And see, I think it's our world. We're in the public eye. Everybody on the outside, in essence, says that in so many ways and deeds. As if what you do every day can just be done by anyone. I still get angry about that. And if I could give you all a mug to take with you to work, it would say, those who can work in public education, all others find less significant lines of work. Now, don't go around saying that to people. It really kind of ticks them off. But you don't have to say it. You have to feel it. Every single day, when you go to a school or a work site, you have to feel that inside. Those who can work in public education. All others find a less significant line of work. And because if you feel that every day, it will change what you say and do. It will change how you do your responsibilities each and every day. It can't help but make you stand a little taller, a little straighter. Because knowing deep inside the importance of what you do. And the beauty is that truly, whether we're talking about what we want in the political arena or in our life or as a nation, we cannot achieve what we aspire to have without all of us. It absolutely takes all of us. So tonight, to ESP, Education Support Professionals, to ESP, exceptionally special people, to ESP, energized superheroes, powerful. I want to leave you with three most important words. One of them is audacity. Don't you love that word? The audacity. When I was a kid, they often used it as a negative. Like I'd hear it at Sunday morning. I can't believe she had the audacity to wear that to church. But when I read President Obama's book, The Audacity of Hope, I understood what it really meant. Audacity means you are not bound by anything small or trivial. You are absolutely boundless in what you believe could happen. The second word I want you to remember is courage, often misunderstood. Some believe that courage is the absence of fear. No, it isn't. Courage is the ability to act in spite of fears and doubt. So yeah, you're going to be scared to death on many days as a leader, but courage is the ability to act in spite of that. The third word has always been my most favorite. It's about power. And those on the outside somehow think that we, those of us who work in education, work with young, small children, we wouldn't want power. Yes, we do. We want power. See, by definition, power is the ability to act, to influence, to make a difference. Every day raising 2 sons, every day in the classroom, I always wanted power. I wanted to make a difference. And in this union, we need power, the ability to act collectively. So as we leave this conference come Sunday, and we start Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, I hope you leave with the audacity to dream big, the courage to act, but most importantly, the power to make our dreams our reality. Thank you very much.